So when you close your eyes and picture an American millionaire, what do you see? Is it yachts, ski chalets, the kind of person who knows way too much about private jet maintenance?
Right, the whole high-gloss fantasy. That's the image the media sells us constantly.
But we are setting ourselves up for failure if we believe that. We're always, always confusing income with actual wealth.
That's the absolute core of it. It's the difference between earning a great living and, actually building a fortune. We see living high, and we think that means wealthy.
For this deep dive, we really dug into the research, especially that seminal work on how wealth is really accumulated in America, and it paints a completely different picture.
A totally different picture. True wealth, according to the data, is defined by what you accumulate, your net worth, not what you spend to support some kind of conspicuous lifestyle.
If you earn a fantastic salary but you spend every single penny, you're just maximizing consumption. You're creating zero net worth. So our mission today is to get behind that facade. We want to profile the prodigious accumulators of wealth, the PAWs.
And contrast them really sharply with the underaccumulators of wealth, or UAWs. These are the people who make great money but just fail to build any lasting financial security.
And we have to start with what is, for me, the most stunning insight from all this research. The vast majority of people building fortunes, they're doing it completely on their own. 80% of American millionaires are first-generation rich. They are self-made.
That statistic is just so important, isn't it? It completely throws out that narrative that wealth is all inherited.
Right. But it also suggests that if you built it yourself, the process requires certain habits, a certain discipline that can be easily lost.
Exactly. That self-made wealth is so often completely gone by the second or third generation. It just highlights how fluid, how almost fragile wealth accumulation is. It takes constant active discipline.
And that's why we need to get inside the mindset of the PAW.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's unpack this profile because it really challenges everything you think you know. We're not talking about Silicon Valley titans here. The median PAW household has a net worth of about $1.6 million.
Which is a decent chunk of change, for sure.
It is. But look at their cash flow. Their median annual realized income, so their taxable salary or business income, is only about $131,000.
$131,000 to manage $1.6 million? I mean, that ratio is just astounding.
Most people with a seven-figure net worth, even if they aren't pulling a huge salary, are perceived to be consuming at a much, much higher rate.
And they're living on less than 7% of their total accumulated wealth every year, which tells you immediately their focus is not on consumption, it's on preserving capital, on compounding, on growth.
Their income is just supplementary. It's not essential for their lifestyle.
That's it. So what are these quiet accumulators actually doing for a living?
We assume they're all, highly credentialed professionals, doctors, lawyers.
But the data tells a much more localized story. 2/3 of working millionaires are self-employed entrepreneurs. And that's even though the self-employed make up less than 20% of the American workforce.
And the businesses themselves are what the research calls dull normal.
Dull normal, I love that term. So we're not talking about high-risk, high-glamour ventures.
Not at all. We're talking essential services, things like welding contractors, rice farmers, pest control operators.
Auctioneers, or maybe a janitorial contracting firm, like the example of Johnny Lucas, who built this quiet multi-million-dollar business just by serving local offices.
They operate in these niches where the competition
Isn't fierce, but reliable demand is constant.
And that low-key, dull normal life is the perfect launch pad for the cornerstone habit of wealth building, which is just frugality.
Absolutely. The media loves to sensationalize hyperconsumption, but PAWs are masters of financial defense. And for them, frugality isn't about, deprivation. It's about efficiency. It's about freedom.
There's that great anecdote, right, about the focus group for decamillionaires.
Oh, it's fantastic. So a trust company hosts this event for people worth over $10 million. And they prepare this truly lavish spread. Expensive pâté, different kinds of caviar, vintage 1970 Bordeaux.
The works, the image of what you serve to wealthy people.
It is. But one of the first millionaires to arrive, a man they call Mr. Bud, he looks at this whole array of luxuries. And when he's offered the vintage Bordeaux, he just says, I drink scotch and 2 kinds of beer-free and Budweiser.
That's incredible. He's worth over $10 million and he wants a Budweiser.
And then the entire group of decamillionaires ignores the wine and caviar. They just ate the simple gourmet crackers. The non-millionaire trust officers and the researchers ended up eating all the fancy stuff.
That story just perfectly captures it. They see food and drink and objects as needs, not as status symbols.
And if you dig into their consumption habits in the data, it gets even better. For self-made millionaires, half of them paid $360 or less for their most expensive suit.
And half of them paid $235 or less for their most expensive wristwatch. We're talking Timex here, not Rolex.
They're just not motivated by the symbolic display of wealth. They're far more likely to drive a modest, often used American-made car. They avoid that massive depreciation hit that consumption-focused people take the second they leave the dealership.
The reward for them is financial independence. It's freedom from worrying about money, not the prestige of some foreign luxury car.
But that has to be tough. I mean, resisting that kind of societal pressure, it must cause some friction, right? In their social lives, marriages.
It can be a challenge, yeah. But what the research shows is that PAWs tend to self-select. They find communities, they find spouses where financial discipline is a shared value, and, more importantly, they budget aggressively.
You know exactly where their dollars are going.
Exactly, which is the opposite of the high-income earner who kind of sees tracking expenses as beneath them.
Okay, so let's pivot from defense to diagnosis.
Yeah.
How can you tell if you're on track to be a PAW or Hormido? If you're an under-accumulator of wealth?
There's a surprisingly simple diagnostic tool for this. It's a rule of thumb wealth equation.
Okay, lay it on us.
You take your age, multiply it by your realized pre-tax annual household income.
The whole household income before taxes. Got it.
And then just divide that whole number by 10, that result. That's your expected net worth.
So if your actual net worth is way higher than that number, congratulations, you're a prodigious accumulator of wealth.
But if your actual net worth is, say, half or less of that number, you're an under-accumulator of wealth. And it doesn't matter what your salary is.
And this equation just immediately reveals the difference, doesn't it? The difference between those who earn a lot and those who keep a lot. This is where you see high-income earners fall right into that UAW trap.
Because they prioritize consumption and showing off their status over actually accumulating anything.
Let's look at the example of Mr. Ford, the attorney. He's 51 years old, solid income of $92,330.
So according to the formula, his expected net worth should be close to $471,000.
But his actual net worth is barely over $226,000, less than half of what it should be.
And the reason is so clear. He's high income, but he has to spend heavily to maintain the lifestyle that goes with his high-status job. He feels like he needs the luxury foreign cars, the club memberships.
The expensive suits, the right zip code. He's trading his potential wealth, his future security, for the appearance of success right now.
And that's the psychological barrier. Wealth is invisible. Consumption is highly visible.
Let's take an even more dramatic case. Teddy Friend. He's a sales pro, age 48, pulls in $221,000 a year.
Wow. Okay, so his expected net worth should be easily over $1 million.
And his actual net worth is less than a quarter of that.
Oof.
Teddy Friend is a classic UAW, and he's driven by social insecurity. The research found his motivation comes from this background of feeling, socially inferior.
Yeah.
So he uses conspicuous consumption to prove he's made it.
6 automobiles, 2 country club memberships.
A watch that cost over $5,000. I mean, he is literally possessed by possessions. He works for things, but those things own him.
And the ultimate implication of that UAW lifestyle is, well, it's pretty frightening when you think about it. Teddy Friend could only live off his accumulated wealth for about 1 year if he stopped working today.
Despite a $250,000 salary, he is on a non-stop, high-stakes treadmill, just working to spend and impress.
And that treadmill, it becomes nearly impossible to get off of when parental assistance gets involved.
Which brings us to the danger of what the research calls economic outpatient care, or EOC.
This is when affluent parents provide ongoing cash gifts, low-interest loans, or other financial subsidies to their adult children. And it's not rare, it's widespread.
Over 46% of the affluent in America give at least $15,000 a year in EOC. And on the surface, it seems like love. You want to give your kids a leg up.
But the data suggests it's incredibly damaging to their financial future.
The fascinating thing here is that the type of gift matters so much. Cash gifts, especially ones for consumption or lifestyle upkeep, they are the single biggest factor explaining a lack of productivity among the adult children of the affluent.
It becomes a crutch.
It becomes habit forming. I mean, why would you work hard and budget if a big check just arrives every year?
You see it with those couples in the research, Mary and Lamar, who rely on mother's stock gifts to buy a new luxury car every 3 years. They call it mother's cycle.
They've completely outsourced their financial discipline to their parents.
And the worst part is the lifestyle lock. A parent pays the down payment on a house or subsidizes private school.
And it seems so generous.
But it forces the adult children into a high-consumption neighborhood or a lifestyle they just cannot sustain on their own. It guarantees their continued economic dependency.
It's a self-perpetuating problem. The research also shows that people who get EOC are far more dependent on credit, and they invest significantly less than people who don't. Less than 65% of what non-receivers invest.
They never get forced to develop that PAW discipline.
And you contrast that destructive model with the strategy of the PAW, Dr. North. He funded his kids' college, grad school, even their homes.
But he did it using investments he had set aside for those specific purposes. And crucially, he and his wife lived a modest, disciplined life by example.
That's the vital part. He taught his children economic independence through his own habits. The best intergenerational transfer you can give is an education and an example of discipline, not just cash for consumption.
Okay, so if the defense is frugality and avoiding debt, let's talk about the offense. What's in the PAW toolkit for accumulation and investing?
It all comes down to planning and just knowing their numbers.
We've established they're not high-income consumers, they're savers, but how specific do they get?
Oh, they're surgical. Almost 2/3 of millionaires know exactly how much their family spends each year on food, clothing, and shelter. Compare that to only 35% of high-income non-millionaires. And PAWs are highly goal-oriented. Daily goals, weekly, annual, lifetime goals. They visualize the long-term benefits, like funding a grandchild's college account years from now, and that keeps them motivated to save today.
They also have a time advantage. These self-employed PAWs, they start earning and investing early, maybe in their 20s.
Right, which lets them significantly outpace highly educated professionals like doctors or lawyers who have years of costly education, all that debt, and just get a really late start on investing. Time is their greatest asset.
And when they do invest, what does that look like?
They're fundamentally conservative. They're generally not active investors or day traders. The pause strategy is to buy based on a lot of study and then just hold.
They see active trading as expensive, stressful, and just counterproductive.
It makes perfect sense. Active trading generates short-term taxable gains, high transaction costs. It just undermines the whole principle. There's that great anecdote of the stockbroker who admits he'd be rich if he just kept his stocks.
But he can't help but make trades in his own portfolio, the exact opposite of PAW discipline.
And that preference for holding, for capital appreciation over cash flow, it leads to really smart tax efficiency. PAWs stay financially independent because they generate so much less realized taxable income relative to their net worth.
There was the example of Barbara with a net worth of $3.5 million, who paid the equivalent of only 2% of her wealth in federal taxes.
Compared to UAWs, who realize these massive incomes to support their consumption and then get taxed so much more heavily relative to the wealth they actually have.
They're preserving capital defensively and letting it grow quietly, which is the definition of low-drama, effective wealth management.
And when they do need advice, they treat it like a serious business decision.
Not falling for cold calls or high-pressure sales pitches.
Exactly. They treat hiring a financial advisor like hiring a key employee. They ask for transcripts, credit checks, references. The research shows the best advisors for PAWs are often recommended by enlightened accountant CPAs who have a track record of helping clients accumulate wealth, not just spend it.
So to bring this all back home, I think the main takeaway for you, the listener, is that financial success is rarely glamorous. It is achieved through, frankly, brutal discipline, living well below your means, and prioritizing long-term accumulation over social status.
It's defense first, offense second. The core difference between the successful accumulator and the high-income spender, it really just comes down to motivation.
What's driving you?
Right. PAWs work to achieve financial independence and freedom. They want that robust go-to-hell fund so they can retire comfortably, free from pressure. UAWs work primarily to spend and impress others. They're locked on that earn-and-consume treadmill forever. They work for status, not for freedom.
That distinction, freedom versus status, that's the ultimate lesson. Which brings us to a final, provocative thought. It's the story of Mr. Allen, a successful entrepreneur who was offered a magnificent gift, a Rolls-Royce.
And he refused it.
He refused it because he recognized that owning that car would require him to change his entire life and values. He couldn't throw bloody fish in the back seat after a fishing trip. He'd have to change the crummy hole-in-the-wall restaurants he loved. It would alienate his workers, who he valued deeply.
He understood that the true cost of consumption goes way beyond the price tag. It costs you your lifestyle, your values, maybe even your integrity.
So the question for you to consider is this.
What level of financial freedom are you trading away right now, today, simply to maintain an image or a lifestyle you were just conditioned to believe you need?